As Yuki walks alone one night, a massive truck suddenly skids out of control and barrels straight toward him. Just as he's about to be crushed, he screams the name Chimmy, the dorkiest girl in school who's totally obsessed with him. In that exact instant, something impossible happens. His body shrinks in a flash, and he turns into a tiny man, only about 6 inches tall. When he looks down, he realizes he's completely naked. Panicking, he rips some clothes off a teddy bear and covers himself as best he can. From that moment on, even ordinary things become life-threatening. A towering man suddenly appears and nearly stomps on him. After that, Yuki waves at a bus and yells with everything he's got. But at that size, nobody notices him. Then a huge cat shows up, staring at him with cold, hunting eyes. Yuki plays dead, hoping it'll lose interest, but the cat sniffs him like a snack. At the last second, he leaps onto its back. Startled, the cat bolts at full speed, then slips while turning and sends Yuki flying through the air toward a river full of toxic sludge. By some miracle, he lands in a plastic cup floating on the surface instead of the poisoned water, and uses it like a tiny boat to survive. With what little strength he has left, he paddles toward a nearby bridge and screams Chimmy's name from the bottom of his heart. At that same moment, Chimmy feels a strange pull in her chest and somehow senses that Yuki is in danger. She runs outside to look for him, not even knowing where to start. Meanwhile, Yuki manages to climb onto an electric scooter driven by a girl, but the scooter hits a bump and he's tossed onto the asphalt. A passing car almost crushes him, and everything keeps spiraling downhill until he finally runs into Chimmy. Using the very last bit of energy he has, he calls out her name. She looks around and sees nobody, but something urges her to glance down. There, at her feet, is a miniature Yuki staring up at her in disbelief. He quickly explains that just as he was about to die, he suddenly turned into a tiny version of himself. Chimmy wants to rush him to the hospital, but he immediately refuses. Ever since his mother died of cancer, hospitals are his biggest trauma. Instead, she whips out her phone and literally searches what to do if a tiny man appears in your house. While she scrolls, a strong gust of wind nearly blows him away. Yuki sneezes. Chimmy realizes he's catching a cold and hurriedly hides him inside her bag to take him home. Inside the bag, he's crushed between her belongings, tossed around non-stop, and gets so dizzy he almost throws up. When they get home, Chimmy pretends nothing is unusual around her family, while Yuki hides in her bedroom. She fills a cup with warm water so he can use it like a bathtub, and coolly tells him he can stay on one condition. He doesn't annoy her or mess with her stuff. He reminds her he doesn't even have clothes or a bed, so she suddenly remembers her old dollhouse and offers it as his new place to live. Then she dresses him in doll clothes, and when she sees how tiny and ridiculous he looks, she bursts out laughing. Yuki gets offended and threatens to strip if she keeps laughing, but to her, that just makes him even cuter. She starts taking selfies with him, poking his cheeks and teasing him non-stop, while he feels completely helpless because at that size, there's no way to fight back. Suddenly, Chimmy's mom walks in and finds her apparently talking to herself, so Chimmy pretends she was praying out loud so her mother won't be suspicious. When her mom asks what she wants for dinner, Yuki's stomach growls like thunder. Chimmy quickly asks for a tiny bowl and cuts noodles into tiny pieces that, from Yuki's perspective, look enormous. He complains that the dollhouse is stiff and uncomfortable and says he wants to sleep closer to Chimmy. She folds a napkin into a blanket and sets him down beside her pillow. At sunrise, they wake up facing each other. Later, Yuki overhears that his dad is searching everywhere for him. So he uses his feet to unlock his phone and sends a message saying he went on a trip so his father won't call the police. A little while later, Chimmy's younger brother barges in and throws a dart that nearly hits Yuki. Chimmy yells at him so fiercely that he gets scared and runs off. He becomes convinced she's hiding a secret boyfriend under her bed. After he leaves, Chimmy sternly warns Yuki never to leave the room and not to wander anywhere else in the house. Meanwhile, her mother hears noises from the bedroom and nervously goes in to check. Yuki darts behind a stuffed animal to avoid being seen. The mom looks under the bed and in every corner, thinking some stray cat slipped into the room. When she doesn't find anything, she steps out, only to return with a vacuum cleaner. She turns it on and starts cleaning. From Yuki's point of view, the vacuum becomes a gigantic monster, blasting wind like a storm that threatens to suck him in. He clings to a tiny pole with all his strength to avoid being pulled into the hose. At the same time, Chimmy leaves school early, sprints all the way home, and finds him curled up miserably in a corner of her room. She apologizes, and Yuki says her mom looked like Godzilla, and now he's terrified of humans. Chimmy realizes she truly can't leave him alone. Even the smallest mishap could kill him. Together, they set some basic survival rules. Yuki must never go near high places, and whenever someone walks into the room, he has to play dead. Before long, he starts begging her to take him outside for some fresh air. Chimmy slips him into the pocket of her clothes, right next to her heart, and he feels like the luckiest guy in the world. He taps lightly on her chest, and she calls him a pervert and warns him not to touch her there again. They head to their favorite bench in the park, where they used to hang out together. But Yuki can't relax because a vulture is circling above, and he feels like he could become prey at any moment. Chimmy promises she'll protect him, then suddenly wonders what a kiss between a full-size person and a tiny person would be like. Yuki gets flustered but agrees to try. The kiss feels incredibly strange. Her lips are huge, and his whole face ends up smeared with her saliva. Still, he tells her her lips taste as sweet as honey and goes home in a great mood. Meanwhile, the basketball coach starts wondering where Yuki is and why he's skipping practice. Chimmy repeats her story that he went on a trip, but the teacher clearly doesn't buy it. The coach corners Chimmy and demands to know Yuki's whereabouts, convinced he wouldn't vanish right before a big game. Chimmy refuses to say anything. The pressure builds until she places a hand over her heart and begs the teacher to trust her. Hidden in her pocket, Yuki watches with endless tenderness, almost falling out but sliding back in before the teacher gets too close. He quietly apologizes for making her lie. Chimmy keeps replaying the coach's questions in her head and, half jealous, says the teacher obviously has a crush on Yuki. He tries to deny it, but then remembers the teacher's looks and little moments in class and realizes it might actually be true. Suddenly, a male teacher hurls a basketball at Chimmy, and she dodges at the last second. Yuki sneezes inside her pocket, and the teacher thinks she's laughing at him, which only annoys him more. Chimmy insists it was the sound of her shoes, and then begs Yuki not to make any noise, because if anyone discovers him, they'll both be kicked out of school. But Yuki doesn't behave, and tries to crawl out of the pocket. She lightly flicks his head with her fingers. In the middle of class, Yuki suddenly shouts that he's bored, and everyone turns to stare at Chimmy like she's the one who yelled. She tells him to be quiet, and he complains that his stomach is hungry. For food and for kisses. The whole class looks at her again, so she blames the boy sitting next to her. She slides her hand into her pocket to scold Yuki, but he playfully bites her fingers, and her best friend starts to notice Chimmy is acting very weird. Later, they go for a snack in a quiet corner, and Chimmy pulls out a note from her mom full of love and encouragement. Her friend suddenly appears, and Yuki is forced to hide behind Chimmy's body, shaking with nerves, terrified of being seen. Once they're alone again, Yuki realizes he smells awful, and his tiny outfits are running out. To solve that, Chimmy joins a crafting club where they teach people how to sew miniature clothes. There, she meets Kosuke, a sharp student who has admired her since childhood. He leans in close, staring at her so intensely that Yuki practically bursts with jealousy. He pretends to sulk, but when Chimmy says Kosuke's name, Yuki jumps in anger, and she immediately realizes he's jealous, which means his heart is slowly sinking with hers. Their bond deepens a little more every day. Yuki asks her to attend the basketball game he was supposed to play in. Sadly, his team loses, and he feels like he's let them down by not being there. Still, they spend the day together, and Chimmy does her best to cheer him up. They ride a couple's attraction at the amusement park in the same seat they once shared. The ride spins so much that Yuki gets dizzy inside the pocket. Soon they notice some girls holding small cardboard cutouts of their idols, and Chimmy has an idea. She'll pretend Yuki is just a little cardboard standee so they can walk around on a date. A group of girls walks up and says her doll looks adorable, so Yuki freezes like a figurine. Chimmy scares them off with rude comments, and the girls call her crazy as they walk away. Once the coast is clear, Yuki tells her that out of all the girls there, she's the prettiest by far. Chimmy blushes and imagines him full size again, and those feelings sink even deeper into her heart. They kiss again to test their love, and Yuki feels like he's drifting on a cloud, promising that even though he's tiny, he'll do everything he can to protect her. Chimmy replies, "They're not an official couple yet, and these small kisses don't count as the real thing." Yuki argues a bit, then asks another favor. He wants her to tell his teammates he's truly sorry for abandoning them and that he's sending all his strength and support their way. The message helps the team regain their confidence, and Chimmy feels even happier. Back in her room, she starts realizing the space is getting too cramped for both of them. She moves to the corner to change clothes, while Yuki sneaks a peek out of the corner of his eye. Her silhouette makes him feel warm, like standing under the summer sun. Meanwhile, Yuki's father heads to the family bar and orders a beer. The owners invite him to eat because they can see how devastated he is about his missing son. They talk about how Chimmy and Yuki used to be close friends, and Chimmy's mom says she always believed Chimmy liked him. He blushes, and the mom even jokes that they should get married someday. Chimmy begs her to stop, dying of embarrassment, while Yuki wishes he could shout that he likes her too. The father asks Chimmy to take care of his son, and she finally learns what caused the rift between them. He once agreed to experimental treatments for his wife's illness, and Yuki never forgave him for it. Thinking about his mom, Yuki bursts into tears, and Chimmy gently pats him to calm him down. She spends so much time locked in her room that her mother starts to worry. When she walks in, she sees Chimmy talking to herself, holding a cloth doll that looks exactly like Yuki. The mother assumes her daughter has lost her mind and decides to look for a psychologist. Meanwhile, Yuki and Chimmy take a bath together. She fills the tub with water and throws in mineral salts so the water won't be see-through. While Yuki bathes in a small cup, he tries to sneak a look at her and she calls him a pervert. She leans closer to his cup and he covers himself quickly, begging her to quit staring while her family secretly spies on her from outside, convinced she's gone crazy. At school, someone hurls a ball that's about to crush Yuki, but Chimmy snatches him away at the last second. She's furious. Hurting the person she loves is unforgivable to her. Yuki starts bothering her on purpose whenever she talks to other boys, especially Kosuke. Eventually, he gathers his courage and officially asks her out on a date. They go to a cafe where couples share a drink with a single straw, and Yuki feels sad because, at his size, he can't do something that simple. So Chimmy places her hand over her chest and lets him lie on her palm. They touch each other with genuine joy, proving their love is bigger than their difference in size. Her friend thinks it's weird that Chimmy is so happy when Yuki is supposedly missing. Chimmy refuses to reveal the truth, but when they leave, one of Yuki's teammates says he misses him a lot. Yuki realizes that not only Chimmy is hurting, his friends are suffering too. He shifts around inside the pocket, and the friend thinks that sound is Chimmy's heart pounding because she's in love. Chimmy immediately says her heart belongs only to Yuki. Trying to understand why he shrank, they head back to the place where he almost got run over. Yuki is hit with intense flashbacks. His head throbs, and he remembers that he was thinking of Chimmy just before the truck hit. He decides it was the power of love that saved him and gave him extra time to be with her. But that miracle has a cost. He slowly starts feeling like he's fading from this world. He keeps this secret from Chimmy for the time being. She goes to a big basketball final where his team is losing badly. From inside the pocket, Yuki whispers tactical tips, and she relays them to the players. They manage an incredible comeback and win. The coach realizes Chimmy shouldn't know so much strategy and suspects Yuki is still nearby. The coach admits she likes him, and soon she and Chimmy argue about who loves him more. The teacher claims Chimmy would make a terrible girlfriend. Chimmy breaks down crying, but Yuki tells her she'd be the best girlfriend in the entire universe. She confesses no boy has ever liked her before and begs him to treat her kindly. He promises he will. Suddenly, a thief on a bike snatches Chimmy's bag, with Yuki inside. She chases him, screaming in panic, but he's too fast. When he finally shakes her off, he opens the bag, steals the small amount of money inside, and tosses it aside like trash. Yuki crawls out, dizzy and stunned, and spots another tiny woman named Nami. He asks if there are more small people in the forest, but she says there aren't, and calls her husband, who greets Yuki warmly. The man puts Yuki in his pocket, but since he's distracted, he keeps bumping into things, making Yuki smack into his chest and face. Later on, Chimmy finds her bag lying abandoned, but Yuki is nowhere to be found. She searches frantically without success, while Nami brings Yuki to her little seaside home. Yuki complains that his life is nothing but danger now, and Nami says being small is hard for her too. But her husband makes everything easier. Yuki speaks fondly of Chimmy and says he's lucky to have her. Nami explains that no one is meant to live completely alone. You have to lean on those around you. When he asks if she knows why they became tiny, her expression turns serious. She says it happens so people can heal their wounds and settle unresolved ties with loved ones before they die. Nami tells him he only has about a week left to live. He leaves her house filled with fear and sadness. Eventually, Chimmy finds him again and feels an overwhelming relief when she sees his shiny, tiny eyes. She presses him to her chest, where her heart beats only for him, and says that if he disappears, it'll feel like she dies too. Then they notice the town is celebrating the Autumn Festival, a special event where teenage couples go together to seal their future. And they're exactly at that age. Even though Yuki is miniature, they decide to go together so their souls can share the happiness they both crave. Chimmy shows him a tiny festival outfit she prepared for him. Kosuke spots her and says she looks beautiful in anything she wears. Someone asks if she has a boyfriend, and she replies that the face in her heart belongs to someone else. She goes upstairs to be alone with Yuki, but his father walks in and sees Yuki in his tiny form. He thinks he must be dreaming and spends the whole day dazed. That night, Chimmy and Yuki lie down together. He tells her he always has fun when he's with her, and she pulls him close so he can be more comfortable. Yuki feels guilty that he can't hug her properly, which is all he wants now. She imagines him at normal size again, wrapping his arms around her. Meanwhile, Chimmy's father starts secretly spying, determined to confirm whether Yuki is really there. Suddenly, Yuki is overwhelmed by a strong urge to kiss Chimmy. But they're in public, and he can't just do it openly. So Chimmy lowers her head into the bag, hiding them both from view. They share a private kiss that leaves Yuki completely soaked in her saliva. At the festival, he spots Nami's husband looking devastated. The man reveals that Nami has died. At that moment, Yuki realizes she was telling the truth about what happens to people like them, and understands he really has only a week left. He keeps this to himself because he wants Chimmy to keep smiling. That night, under a sky full of stars, Yuki finally tells her everything he feels. He admits he's loved her for years, and that whenever he looks at her, his heart rattles like an earthquake. She gives him a small kiss, and now that they're officially a couple, he wants to be reunited with his family. He's so happy he sticks his head out of the pocket. His father sees him and nearly passes out. Chimmy quickly hides him again. They plan a romantic night together, but her little brother shows up crying over a nightmare and begs to sleep beside her. Chimmy agrees. And Yuki hates being away from her, but sneaks into her bed when he can so they can meet again in their dreams. The next day, she buys him a tiny cotton candy, but accidentally covers him in sugar, and he gets annoyed. Then the basketball coach shows up at the door and barges into the house, heading straight for Chimmy's room to look for proof that Yuki is there. She doesn't find anything and, frustrated, blames Chimmy for all her issues, claiming that if not for her, Yuki would be her boyfriend instead. Chimmy demands that she leave her room, and the teacher shouts for Yuki to come back if he can hear her. Afterward, Yuki makes it clear that Chimmy is the only girl he likes. To prove it, they go on a karaoke date and sing a love song together. Every lyric digs deep into their hearts and fills them with joy. The mood shifts when Kosuke gives Chimmy a dress he made himself, clearly showing romantic interest. Yuki slowly realizes he doesn't have a real future with her. They can't attend college together. They'll never have children, and he sinks into sadness. Chimmy, stubborn as ever, insists they can always adopt and even threatens to smack him if he keeps talking like that. Finally, he tells her that in 1 week he'll vanish from this world. At first, she doesn't understand, so he explains that he shrank so he could spend his last days by her side. That was his deepest wish. But that time is almost gone. Chimmy collapses under the weight of the news and sobs uncontrollably. The next morning, Yuki begs her to live their remaining days with the same joy they had before. He says it would be a waste to spend their final moments arguing and crying when the thing he loves most about her is her smile. They return to the accident site, and Chimmy says she wishes she could shrink too so they could stay together forever. In despair, she steps into the road, hoping a car will hit her so she can die and share his fate. A truck races toward her, and Yuki screams for her to move. Thankfully, the driver swerves and narrowly avoids her. She can't handle the idea of saying goodbye to the love of her life and breaks down again. Yuki taps her gently until she snaps out of that dark mindset, and he makes her see that life is far more precious than death. He makes her promise to keep living. He also accepts that when he dies, he'll be reunited with his mother, whom he loved more than anything. He chooses to treat these last days as a special gift. Time to spend with the most important girl in his life, the one who brought light to his heart in his darkest moments. Yuki begs her not to waste the little time they still have. He sings her a song about faith and love. As he looks at her, she cries tears of pure love. Then they visit his father's house and record a video where Yuki apologizes for resenting him all those years and tells him that, despite everything, he loves him. His father is deeply moved and begs to see his son one more time. Yuki agrees and comes out of hiding. At first, his dad thinks it's some hallucination or a prank set up by Chimmy. But when he touches Yuki with his own hand, he realizes it's real. They talk through everything they've held inside, let go of their anger, and thank each other. His father thanks him for being his son. and Yuki thanks him for raising him well and for sending him to the school where he met Chimmy. She steps outside to give them space, and when the father sets a beer glass on the table, the impact shakes the surface just enough to make Yuki fall into the cup. He climbs out, dripping wet, dries himself with a napkin, and their bond becomes stronger than ever. Afterward, Chimmy gathers her family in the kitchen and says there's something important they need to see. Suddenly, Yuki appears in his tiny body right in front of them. His grandmother almost faints, and everyone is stunned. Once they calm down, they accept him as part of the family because they can clearly see how much Chimmy loves him. They prepare little portions of food just for him, and the grandmother comments on how adorable he is. In the middle of that joy, part of Yuki's body starts to fade, a clear sign that his time is nearly up. Fear grips the whole family. To ease the tension, Yuki admits that his favorite part of Chimmy's body is her hairline, because whenever he hugged her, that's what he saw up close. He adds that hugging her is his absolute favorite thing in the world. From that moment on, Chimmy becomes another treasured member of his family. Her little brother says he heard them kissing in her room, and she denies it while blushing. Their mom tells her she doesn't need to be embarrassed about kisses, and even confesses that she kisses her husband constantly, making him want to disappear from embarrassment. Then she says the most important thing is that Yuki and Chimmy make an amazing couple, and she's sure they'll find a way to get past every obstacle, even his tiny size. After a few days, Yuki finally tells them the full truth about what's going to happen to him. His father frantically searches for help and finds a doctor willing to see Yuki. When the doctor examines him, he doesn't seem shocked by his size at all. Chimmy's hands tremble with fear, and Yuki's father holds her hand, explaining he can't stand the idea of losing his son after already losing his wife. When the tests come back, the diagnosis is heartbreaking. Yuki's body is almost completely hollow inside, and the only organ he has left is his heart, beating slower and slower. The only thing keeping him here is the love of his family, and most of all, Chimmy's love. The weight of that responsibility crushes her, and her mother comforts her so she can keep going. Yuki decides to show himself to his classmates, too. He admits he never actually went on a trip, and they're thrilled to see him again, even in miniature form. He tells them that even without him, they can still become the best basketball team in the country. The coach apologizes for how she treated Chimmy and thanks her for protecting Yuki all this time. She finally admits that she understands now Yuki's real love is Chimmy. With his secret now out, there's only one step left, to fully seal their love. They plan a romantic night in a hotel suite they'd dreamed about visiting when they were kids. In bed, they look at each other with the kind of craving people have for their favorite chocolate. They undress, and for one miraculous moment, Yuki returns to his normal size, and they share an intimate night together. Afterward, they go back to their special bench, the place where Yuki first realized he loved her. There, for the first time, Chimmy openly tells him she loves him. Yuki says he loves her too, with everything he has, and that she's the girl he'll remember for the rest of eternity. With the little breath he has left, he shouts again and again that he loves her millions of times more. After that confession, he feels his purpose in this world is fulfilled and fades away. Chimmy feels her heart shatter into countless pieces. She tells her family that Yuki is gone. She cries for many days, but slowly she starts to understand something deeper. Whenever she feels sad or has a rough day, she senses that he's up in the sky, watching over her.
Even though they never got to build the family they dreamed about, he lives on inside her memories. Yuki becomes her guardian angel, protecting her from above and reminding her that she was always his great love. Chimmy envisions an entire life with him in her imagination and vows to keep her smile alive forever in the most private corner of her soul, a place reserved only for true love.